Welcome to Opposition Territory here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world, over 12 and a half years strong. We got a great Eagles-Chargers preview show coming your way this week. I'm Jeff Warren. I'm here with my good buddy from the Locked On Chargers podcast. He's a busy man, especially this week, as this Eagles team is going to be going up against the Chargers on Monday Night Football. We've got David Droegemeier. Dave, buddy, man, thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely a pleasure. We've done this a few times now, and I always take it as a compliment when I get asked to return back to somebody's show. That just means that I was able to provide some quality input, and so
Absolutely.
I always try to take that as a compliment. So I'm happy to be doing this with you here again on a highly anticipated, very, very important primetime matchup.
Yes, and it really is. This matchup is going to be so interesting from an offensive and defensive standpoint. We're certainly going to be getting into it during the discussion here. But, Dave, I've been starting our Opposition Territory podcast off in our preview shows week after week, really talking about the team that the Eagles are going to be facing in a two-part question in terms of the strengths and weaknesses of that team. So let's get that discussion started here, just to give our listeners a little background as to, who this Los Angeles Chargers team really is. I mean, it's still definitely in the playoff picture as we head into week 14. They're the number one wild card spot over in the AFC as we are recording this. So get us started, buddy. What has been the biggest strength of this Chargers team as we're heading into week 14 of the season here?
Yeah, biggest strength of this football team, starting on the defensive side, is their pass defense. They've been one of the best pass defenses in the National Football League. They are definitely in the top 10 in passing yards allowed, and that's coupled with the way they play defense, which is keeping those two safeties very similar to how the Eagles do. They keep those safeties on the back end, and they kind of try to force everything to be done in front of you, and so they've done a really good job of that, marrying that with a pass rush that when they're in that situation where they can pin the ears back, they've been highly successful getting after the quarterback. And on offense, it's really just about finding that balance. They're at their best when they're able to run the ball and do the play action off of it. Justin Herbert has 4 different receivers that have over 500 receiving yards this season. So he has been spreading the ball around. But when they're able to run the ball and dictate what they want to do to the opponent, that's when they're at their best. Trying to take a little bit off of Justin Herbert's plate is the recipe that allows them to have the most success on offense.
We're going to talk about Justin Herbert in a little bit, and what
course.
the quarterback position is going to be looking like. But on the flip side of that coin, Dave, what has been the biggest weakness on this team thus far that we're going to need to look at as we're heading into week 14 here?
The biggest weakness on this team is obvious. It's the interior of the Chargers offensive line. They have struggled with, being able to, keep Justin Herbert upright. He's been sacked 38 times so far. The tackle position has been in flux. They've had to try to rotate a bunch of guys in to try to figure out who the best 5 pass protectors are. I mean, because they made some concessions earlier on with, some of the running concepts they wanted to do. They kind of had those guys that were better run blockers out there than pass protectors, which I never really understood. The most important thing is protecting your $260+ million quarterback. So the best 5 pass protectors need to be in the game, and I think they finally figured out who that is with Jamaree Salyer playing left tackle, something he did his rookie season when Rashawn Slater, the Chargers superstar left tackle, went out with an injury and played admirably. Helped the Chargers get to the playoffs that year. Without his contributions, that would not have happened. And so they have him on the left side. They're going to have Trey Pipkins or Bobby Hart on the right side. So I think they've been able to finally stabilize who they're going to have out there, as long as they're able to stay in the lineup. Mekhi Becton, the guy who they actually paid to come in, the only improvement that they made, obviously you're very, very familiar with him, being the former Eagle. He's been in and out of the lineup all year. He's only completed from start to finish a couple of games this year. So it's just the offensive line and their inability to protect Justin Herbert. When Justin Herbert has just a half second more, he has shown that he can make any throw and dice up any defense in the NFL.
It really is amazing where Mekhi Becton is right now, especially after last season. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if Jeff Stoutland has, and leading up until this point, some sort of secret sauce that he's been able to give offensive linemen. And I hesitate to say that, given the struggles the Eagles' offensive line have been going through. And we're certainly gonna get to some of these matchups. But moving along here, Dave, I want to get into the quarterback position for this Chargers team because we're getting to that point in the season where injuries are starting to really mean something for various teams, and especially teams that are looking to be contenders. And now with Justin Herbert getting surgery on his left hand, I'm really wondering how this is going to affect the Chargers as a whole moving forward. And what I mean by that is these type of things can actually have a psychological impact on a team from an overall perspective. And as of us recording this here on Wednesday, December 3rd, we're still not 100% sure if Justin Herbert is going to be under center or if it will be Trey Lance. But how do you think from a psychological perspective this may impact the team given his injury and whether or not he is under center?
Well, I'll tell you this. He's not going to be under center. He's going to be in the pistol or the shotgun. But he
Very
most
true,
certainly
yes.
will be on the football field.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert has proven throughout his career that he is certainly as tough as nails. This is a guy who has played through fractured rib cartilage.
Yeah.
He has played through 2 bad ankles, one on each in the same season. He has also played through broken fingers on that non-throwing hand. And the only one that took him out for a considerable amount of time was the broken fingers on his actual throwing hand. So Justin Herbert's toughness is absolutely unquestioned. The fact that he has played with a similar type of injury with broken fingers on that non-throwing hand gives him confidence that he knows what he needs to do to protect himself. And knows that he's capable of doing it because he's done it before. So the surgery on Monday was all about stabilizing that injury to make sure that they can get it casted, protected, and as long as it's stabilized, they have ways that they can protect it. Okay. I think you'll probably see Trey Lance under center in some of those short yardage situations. I think he'll probably factor in a little bit, but rest assured, I'm confident as we're recording this, barring any significant setbacks, I expect Justin Herbert to play on Monday night.
Okay. And just to follow up from a hypothetical standpoint, again, just because, we don't have 100% definitive knowledge right now, if he is going to be taking those snaps, if the Chargers do have to go with Trey Lance, I mean, what do the Chargers offense, what does it look like with Trey Lance rather than Justin Herbert?
Well, yeah, it looks a lot less menacing.
Right.
Yes. It's really going to be focusing on the rushing attack, right? I mean, honestly, I think we saw it, right? I mean, I'm sure, you watched the game last week that the Eagles played against the Bears just like I did.
Yep.
And the Chicago Bears ran it almost 50 times on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes.
Ran it right down their throats and straight up dominated them from beginning to end.
Yep.
That's just what happened. I hate to be so blunt, but
it's what happened. Absolutely.
That's what happened. And the Chargers did that same thing to the Raiders. Like, the Chargers only threw the ball 20 times. It's because they ran it 43 times for almost 200 yards.
Right.
So that's absolutely what they're going to want to do against the Philadelphia Eagles, and also incorporate the QB runs. Like Trey Lance I think he's improved as a passer. He'd made better decisions in training camp and in preseason when he was given those opportunities. But the rest assured, he's at his most dangerous when he's running with the football. So he absolutely, I think the Chargers will go to a more of a QB run focused, while they're still trying to set up the easy throws and the play action to the weapons, because the Chargers have great weapons, on the outside with Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston, and Aronde Gadsden, the tight end. They have guys that can do different things to hurt you. So they're still going to try to get those guys the ball, but it's definitely going to be, hey, what does the quarterback I have available do the best? And that's be dangerous with his feet. So that's definitely going to be more of the approach to try to, win the football game if your superstar quarterback isn't behind center.
Yeah, well, we got to get into some matchups here too, because, regardless of the quarterback situation for the Chargers, we know the quarterback situation for the Philadelphia Eagles and who is going to be in the pistol under center. And that is Jalen Hurts. And he has been running this Eagles offense that has been struggling offensively over the past several weeks. Tons of individuals in the fan base. I mean, they've been calling for coaches to be fired as a result. It's very
What's
much
your record again?
Yeah, exactly. I know.
What are we talking about?
It's crazy. This fan base is nuts when, my co-host and I are going to talk about it on the regular show this week when they're egging, fans are egging the house of the offensive coordinator,
That's
which is
insane.
just ridiculous. It really is insane. The Eagles offense is struggling at the end of the day. So I'm wondering, Dave, how do you expect the Chargers to really attack the weakness of this Eagles team, which really is the offensive line this year? So in terms of like this first matchup we're talking about, how do you see that manifesting?
I mean, to me, when I watch the Philadelphia Eagles, the most important difference is the fact that Saquon Barkley has not been nearly as effective running with the football. And
Yes.
that's a huge part of what the Philadelphia Eagles want to do and how they kind of protect Jalen Hurts from having to throw it 35, 40 times, right?
Right.
That's not what you want him to do. I mean, he's improved as a passer. I will say that he's been very accurate, but when they don't have that threat of Saquon like running for 150 on you, then you can kind of go back and play coverage, right? And try to keep everything in front of you and kind of dare Jalen Hurts to make some of those throws that they don't really want him to make. So it's stomp out the running game, completely shut down Saquon as much as you possibly can. And if you can do that and you want to put the ball and keep the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands more often and allow that pass rush to get, and take over. And I think one of the things the Chargers have really struggled with this year has been a running quarterback. And the thing is that Jalen Hurts hasn't been running nearly as much.
Not at all.
It's been kind of strange to me because like Trey Lance, that's one of the things that makes him very dangerous and dynamic is when a defense has to completely account for every single person on the field, including the quarterback with the football. So that's one thing is making sure you have that contain and stopping him. But I think it all starts with stopping Saquon and neutralizing that rushing attack.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. Again, folks, we're talking to David Droegemeier from the Locked On Chargers podcast. Before we go to break, buddy, let everybody know where they can find you on the interwebs out there if they want to connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on X at DroTalkSD. You can find my show, the Locked On Chargers podcast, anywhere that you get your podcasts on audio and, of course, on video on YouTube on our Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, where we're very fortunate to surpass 2 million views this season. Thanks to all of the amazing fans out there that have been there to support us. So please check us out. And hey, we do a crossover episode with Locked On Eagles as well. That's going to come out tomorrow. So that might be an episode you might want to check out.
Awesome. We had Lou DiBiase on the show last week, dove into some Eagles talk. Lou is always great. And if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe to the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show. If you're listening to us on whatever audio platform you're on, share our podcast with your friends, your family. Let them know about the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show that is out there. And we're also on various social media sites as well. You can take a look at all of these on YouTube here. And if you're listening to us, we are on the Twitter/X at Philadelphia PST. Search us out on Instagram. I'm over on TikTok at Mr. Jeff Warren. Like our Facebook page, we're on Threads. I'm over on Blue Sky as well. You can just search out Jeff Warren. That being said, we are going to take a break. And when we get back, more of this Chargers and Eagles matchup that's going to be coming your way on Monday Night Football. Stick with us. All right, we are back with our good buddy David Droegemeier from the Locked On Chargers podcast. And to dive into more of some of the matchups we're going to be seeing on Monday Night Football this week, the Eagles' defensive front has been really doing a good job of putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. At times, they're not getting home as much as us fans would like, but that pressure is there, and it certainly is making a difference game after game. So I'm wondering, Dave, how do you see the Chargers' offensive line really stacking up against the Eagles' defensive front this week? I know we talked about the weakness on this Chargers team being the interior, that offensive line, but how maybe in a little more detail, how do you really see that Chargers offensive line stacking up against this Eagles defensive front?
Yeah, if it was Austin Deckles out there at left tackle, or if it was Trevor Penning, who they traded for out there at left tackle, I would not feel very comfortable. And I don't feel great. Don't get me wrong, even with Jeremiah Sawyer out there, who is head and shoulders a much better pass protector than both of those gentlemen. It gives you a little bit of hope, but you have to know who you're going up against. I mean, the Jalen
Yeah.
Carter, the Nolan Smith, the Jordan Davis, like the Brandon Graham, like just a just murderer's row of
Jalen
fantastic.
Phillips.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jalen Phillips, who they traded for, like just
Yeah.
some fantastic players that you have to know where they're at. And the Chargers need to continue the max protection when they're trying to set up shots. Like you got to keep that tight end in there. Tucker Fisk, who's their primary blocking tight end they've had out there right now. You got to make sure that your running backs who, Omarion Hampton seems like he's going to be back on Monday, and Kamani Vidal, who has been great for the Chargers. I mean, just to get the type of production they've got out of him, and also as a pass protector, he's been fantastic in that front. It's all hands on deck, right? It's all hands on deck because these guys are fantastic. What that means is you have to make sure that you stay out of those 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 plus situations, so that you can try to keep your quarterback in the game, because this is the type of pass rush that wants nothing more than to rip your quarterback to shreds. Absolutely very dangerous. And they do it in different ways. Like you have the speed, you have the power combinations, so they can kind of play with that. The Chargers have always struggled interior wise with the stunts and twists, so they have to make sure that they're on point with that communication. But it's the quick passing game. It's getting the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands quickly, getting it to guys like Quentin Johnston, who's really good with the yards after catch, getting it to the safety valve and Arondé Gadsden, the tight end. It's making sure that you protect your quarterback with some movement, getting him out of the pocket and getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and making sure that you keep that pass rush at bay.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, every week when we watch various NFL games, it doesn't just have to be with the Chargers or the Eagles. There always seems to be some sneaky players that have themselves a really nice game, or that they play a pivotal role. And while we certainly don't have a crystal ball here, Dave, I'm wondering which Chargers players really should we be keeping our eyes on this week, who could, be those sneaky players against this Eagles team this week. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so one guy on offense that is somebody I hadn't mentioned, who has been doing a lot of the dirty work so far this year for the Chargers, is wide receiver Trey Harris, their second round pick.
Yeah.
He has been in on every single big long run the Chargers have had. You can see him making a crucial block. You can see him taking out 2 defenders and opening up holes for the running backs for them to gallop through and head down the sideline. He's been there. Whenever they've needed him on 3rd downs, he's been able to make a big catch and to be able to move the chains. He doesn't have the biggest stat line because there's a lot of mouths to feed on that Chargers offense, but he's a guy that has the potential to break out if given the opportunity. But he might be a guy that quietly makes his mark on this football game on offense. And I'll give you one more on defense.
Yeah.
The veteran, the guy we like to call Uncle or Unk, that's Tony Jefferson. Tony Jefferson just always seems to be at the right place at the right time. He is a very smart football player. He is always around the football. He has 3 interceptions this year in limited duty. Whenever he's on the field, he's making plays. He plays with that physicality and violence that you love. And for a guy that completely retired from football, became a scout, and then unretired and came back to be able to play at the level that he's been able to play at, is quite simply remarkable. And another guy that factors to make an impact on the game, because if he's on the field, he always finds a way to do that.
That's going to be interesting to see who these sneaky players are for sure. So, Dave, we end our pregame preview shows here on our Opposition Territory podcast every week with these 2 questions. This week, no different. It's one thing that each team is going to need to hit on for a win this week against the other team. So let's start with your Los Angeles Chargers. What's the one thing the Chargers are going to need to hit on for a win this week against the Philadelphia Eagles? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so one thing they absolutely have to do to win this football game is they need to start fast. They got to score early. When the Chargers score, and either way, touchdown or field goal, on their first drive that they have of a football game, they have won 6 of 8 games in that situation. So it is very important for them to get off the blocks hot and get out there and start fast. If they do that, they're going to put themselves in a great position to win the game.
All right. On the flip side of that, what's the one thing that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to need to hit on, in your opinion, for a win this week against the Chargers?
They're going to have to find that running game. The Chargers are susceptible when they're not playing with the right physicality and violence to get ran over. I mean, as you know, I talked about it earlier, these two defenses are very similar in the philosophy on which they want to play. They kind of allow the running game, or they concede the running game a little bit to limit the explosive plays in the passing game. So if the Eagles can find that running game, which I know, they're having some issues on their offensive line with Lane Johnson being out, obviously being one of the best tackles in football, and really in the history of football, to be honest. He's truly fantastic. With him not in the lineup, that's a noticeable difference. But they have to run the football at a very high level if they want to win this football game on Monday night.
Totally agree. Folks, check out the Locked On Chargers podcast. You can hear our good buddy David Droegemeier and his colleagues there. They're going to have the crossover with our good friend Louis DiBiase from the Locked On Eagles podcast as well. Again, David Droegemeier from the Locked On Chargers podcast. My friend, thank you so much for taking the time. It's always great to talk to you. Let's talk some more ball down the road. I'd love to have you back on the show, my friend.
Anytime. You let me know, and I'll be there.